Hey guys, what is going on? It is Ando. Welcome back out to the channel, guys. We are going to continue kind of a little trend of the videos that we have already established. That last video was a pretty big success, and I thank you guys so much for all the new subscribes and the likes and the comments and stuff. It was a pure joy to just kind of comment with you guys and hang out and discuss things. So I encourage you guys to continue to do that. If you guys are new to the channel, please consider subscribing, as we do want to continue to grow this channel. Share with your guildmates. I know this is a really important topic, and an important one too, because it's a pretty pricey relic. But we're going to talk about, should you or shouldn't you relic 9 your C? So there's a lot to talk about here. And of course, we wouldn't be playing Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes if we weren't discussing this on PowerPoint. Come on, we're not going to go in the game. All right, so what stats do we care about with C, guys? And this is specifically with GAC, but a little bit of Territory Wars in mind. But I can tell you that I run the same C in TB as well, and I've never really had any problems with it. So he's an attacker, right? We want C to do damage, right? That's the most important thing ever. Is not what is actually the most important thing. We are caring only about his survivability and specifically his health, right? And now the question should be, why health, guys? Well, it's easier to get his health pool to be bigger. Bigger is better in this scenario, in most scenarios actually, but it basically helps to combat raised natural damage. Raised damage is basically just a heap of damage thrown at your, however many characters you have left on the field. And so that big amount of survivability just kind of helps tank all that. It also helps combat the new JMK cat, right? There's a new way of kind of modding and throwing a team in together that helps you defeat JMK cat more consistently, at least. And also the honorary Sith herself, the armorer, is a perfect companion for C, because she can actually increase C's health pool, and he has a 65% health steal, which is pretty epic, right? If you do 100k damage, right, you're gonna recover back 65,000 damage, so that's pretty amazing. So that is why we really want to focus on health. I see a lot of people still trying to do protection. It'll work in a lot of cases, but it's not going to work in the overall cases, I guess 99% of them. So just something to think about, guys. All right, so for a practical example, we're going to take somebody's just scrub C, worst C ever. Actually, I say that kind of jokingly, it's my C. But I will say this, my health on it is not the most ideal. I still run a crit damage triangle. There's reasons, okay? So don't judge me too much, but just know that ideally I would also actually have a health triangle as well, and it would actually boost these numbers up quite a bit. So let's just take a look, right? So again, I got the compare over here, what it would be if I R9'd my C today with the mods that it had on it today. And again, we're not worried about damage at all, really. And you can see today I have 185k health and 56k protection, and with the GL unique, right, it's 80% of his health and protection, and that gives him an effective health of about 334k and an effective protection of a little over 100,000. Now that total health and protection, again, because we're really going to focus on Rey, it's probably the biggest counter to Rey, or at least the most common. It's probably also the most common failed one, at least from my limited viewings that I've seen. But it gives him about a total health and protection of about 435k. Now again, so you can, your C could take up to 435,000 damage whenever Rey comes and drops her ultimate on you. Now that always happens, and again, it's in a vacuum because there's 5 characters on their side too. They start doing damage to you, you might not be at full health or protection by the time she lands her ultimate, so that can be where you can get a little bit trouble. But again, we're gonna plan in a vacuum here. And so again, Relic 9, what does that add? You know, I'm not going to talk too much about, you know, you could read the numbers, but the big thing is, again, that GL unique is adding 10% onto your health and protection. So it's not so much that the relic level added so much health and protection, but it did add some, and I don't want to negate that, but it's adding an additional 10% of health and protection, which is going to give you 368,000 K health and 120K protection, right? And so the ending is going to be about a 50K difference, right? Which again, you might say like, oh, 50K, that's, you know, just so and so doing a basic on you, and you're right about that, but at least that gives you some more wiggle room and to tank that Rey ult, right? So again, a practical example. This was on a stream of mine. This was an R9. From what I can remember, is a pretty well modded offense Rey. I think, you know, in the 12K range for offense. And you can see here it's doing 344K damage to me. So, you know, if you look back at our Relic 8 and our Relic 9, obviously I still have a Relic 8, so it did fine. So you're probably asking yourself, okay, so why the heck would I need that? All right, good question, random person that I just made up. All right, so explain this, right? Remember that inside of Galactic Legends, they usually, one of their key kind of traits is that they can really allow for a lot of inside theory crafting, or there's a lot of different kits that can kind of move in and outside of these teams. And so we can see here, right, this team, you know, and again, we don't know which ones are R9, we don't know which ones are R8, but we can see here, and I'll explain each one of these, that these are not good win percentages, right? Like, I wouldn't go into the very best one here is 66% basically. I don't think that that's a very good percentage, especially if you're a TW officer and you just say, hey, we got a wall of 50 Reys and we just know that 2/3 of our guild is going to be successful and we'll have, you know, X amount of Reys left over to clean up. Like, that doesn't seem to be successful, and it doesn't sound like a method for success inside of GAC, right? That you're just gonna have to 2-tap a Rey by giving up a Galactic Legend plus whatever else you got to give up to clear that. But again, this is the win percentages that we're seeing from .gg. So there's a few things in here, and I picked this specific comp. It was really just, I picked BB-8. And here's the reasons why. So the first one, this top one, few things to remember here. That Sith gain turn meter whenever there's any sort of lock buff. Now this was actually really supposed to kind of negate the counter for Imperial Troopers against C, but Lifeblood and damage immunity are all locked buffs, which means they're going to gain turn meter. That doesn't sound like a bad thing, right? Because gaining turn meter on a team just means you go faster, except for the fact that Rey has some really special and usually forgotten, you know, component in her kit where it says that whenever your enemies gain bonus turn meter, basically any inspired allies are going to gain, I believe it's 5% mastery. Rey's mastery is offense, so again, we're just going to be, the more and more Sith that we have on here, the more and more turn meter that we're gaining every single time one of those lock buffs happens, and thus the more Rey's damage is going to be increased. So not saying that's the reason why all these fails happen here, but just something for you to think about in the future. Now, for why I think this happens is because Rey in here with BB-8, or JTR I should say, JTR with BB-8 moves incredibly fast. They gain a lot of turn meter off of each other, and the first thing that Rey's going to do typically is going to hand wave and take the taunt off of your tank. That doesn't sound so bad sometimes, because sometimes they still just kind of go after your tank. Sometimes they'll just go after Watt, and you know, Watt's already taken his turn, so he's already given off his tank tech or whatever you're giving off to C. And so sometimes, right, like that's probably why some of these guys are winning. But sometimes they decide to be real big jerks and they decide to go after armor, and then you're not getting your 15% health increase, and then you're really in trouble. On top of all of that, JTR and BB-8 are moving fast, and so what's going to end up happening is it's going to boost up Rey's ultimate charge. She's going to ultimate more and faster, and Also, once Illuminate Destiny happens, we get a 50% increase because there's an offense up in there as well. So when you pair all those things together, I think you really start to see why this team starts failing so much. And again, this one down here is the exact same team, but you know, you're not even bringing a pre-taunter and you're losing like 20% more times. So if it comes down to it, right, and you're really up against the wire, I guess the reason why I showed this is just by putting a single pre-taunter in here, you're at least improving your odds by about 20%. So not too bad. All right, so then why is this one our highest win percentage? Well, again, I talked about how JTR and BB-8 have a internal turn meter loop, right? And again, that's actually boosting up how fast Rey can get her ultimates off. And without JTR in there, BB-8's just kind of wiggling and no one's really gaining too much turn meter. So this is one of those scenarios where this is maybe the right idea. You're thinking kind of about the right idea, but Holdo kind of is not what you need. And JTR also adds an added complexity of a heal immunity, but usually you can kind of go around that by saving your links. Anyways, thought I'd explain some of these fights, and so that way hopefully you can either plan your defense around it or plan your offense around it. So hopefully that was helpful. All right, so now let's talk about our practical example with armor, right? In that same scenario. So we had that Rey damage. If you remember, it was 344k. But remember, we're just going to say that, hey, BB-8 gets off his Illuminated Destiny, which is a 50% increase in offense. Her total damage now is 516k. My Relic 8 armor, or my Relic 8C with armor, you know, we still got the GL unique and we still got the armor, or now we're including this armor 15% of our health, which now boosts our health up to an effective 384. Our protection stays the same because that's not changing at all. But our total health and protection is only now 485, which is bigger than it was before, obviously before or without armor unique, but it's not as big as it is whenever we add Relic 9. Now, again, planning in a vacuum, that we could hypothetically tank that same Rey ultimate with just our C and armor, if we can guarantee ourselves to get 2 stacks on armor or on C. Now, again, you have to kind of remember what the team is going to look like, how fast is it going to move, but you know, and how many other characters are still around, because you know the remainder of this is about 30k, and you know, Resistance Hero Finn could probably just one-shot you at that point. But yeah, that's in this example, right? The difference between you potentially winning versus you going home sad is, you know, that Relic 8 to 9. So just something to think about. So kind of in conclusion, guys, why you should or shouldn't R9 your C. So for the should sides, more survivability equals less sketchy battles, right? A lot of times these fights aren't determined by just 30k, but sometimes they are, and that's those ones that get really, really scary. And those simple mods that you sliced that gave you a little bit more health and a little bit more protection, or a little bit more whatever stat you're looking for, is the difference maker. C is really good in GAC because he can take out Rey. He can take out JMK Cats if you have the right mod build, and if your opponent, or I should say, your opponent doesn't have the right mods. He's excellent in a C mirror because once he kills off your Watt or your armor, it's basically just you kind of linking up all of his teammates and you getting your ultimate like 55 times faster than him. That's a scientific number, I promise. And then last but not least, he's obviously super good against JML. I haven't done too much with him against Lord Vader, especially with ultimate. I remember back without an ultimate, it was actually a pretty easy fight. But you know, again, I don't want to say that he's really good at killing Lord Vader if he's not, because I don't think he is. So why you shouldn't? All right, so I'm going to use this very, very, I don't know how to say it, like very kind of off cheek, I guess. Common off meta counters don't seem to be affected too much by the R9 to R8 conversions. And what I'm really talking about is the GG Newt one and Maldo's. Now, there's this one that's kind of just recently come out, which is the Omicron Wampa. We've seen videos of it doing well. We've seen videos of it failing. We've seen videos of it timing out, right? So that's going to kind of develop itself, I think, within the next few weeks as people start to get more testing done with it, as they start to say, hey, I think, you know, we need more offense on it, or hey, we need more potency on it to get it to work. So again, I'm not confident in saying this, but it does seem like you know, more survivability is always a good thing, and or at least for C. And so, but the counters don't seem to be greatly affected by it. Now, I'm also going to say this again, kind of tongue-in-cheek. C on defense can be less than ideal. He seems like he's really an offensive powerhouse because you get to pick who you want to link up, which is important because of the link mechanics. But at the same times, I say this, and yet as you see here, he's actually the #1 leader in holds for GAC last season. So, and there could be a myriad of reasons why, right? I think he's usually the first GL that people unlock, but I mean, he's holding almost 30% of the time that people set him down. So, you know, I can't say that he's terrible on defense. I just think that he is an offensive juggernaut when you mod him correctly. And some of those trade-offs with the off meta can seem a little bit less than ideal. So anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you guys found it entertaining. Hopefully you guys found it a little bit informative. I know, again, share with your guildmates. I know they're probably thinking about this. I plan on doing this for all the GLs, kind of talking about the key stats and what R9 really brings to them, if it's any game changer or if it's just going to be sort of a meh. And I think C is probably a game changer, honestly, for how people use him. So again, like the video if you guys liked it. Comment, tell me what you guys think. Are you guys going to R9 your Cs whenever you guys get the chance? We'll see you guys in the next one.